Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co, podgo.co. And when you sign up, don't forget to mention Next Best Bet as how you heard about Podgo. Now, on to the Next Best Bet episode 65. Brett and Jake, as always, and we got some MLB, NBA, NHL. We got lots of sports bets, lots of action. Sports are back right now, Brett. But are they really? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Hindsight with Higgins. Let's talk about how we did last episode.
Let's do it. And to all those watching on YouTube, how about Higgins' new setup, everyone? Looking good, Jake.
It feels nice not to have the window behind me. Instead, I am facing the window now, so a little natural light coming in.
I'm just a little nervous that I won't be able to see if you got any more blood on your golf towel. So, just want to make sure no more blood stains on the golf towel, and then we can move on.
I think we're all good there.
All right, good. Okay, we could continue with the podcast, I guess.
All right, hindsight with Higgins. You and I each gave out 3 picks in episode 64. One of mine was voided, Brett. Typically, you were having the voided MLB bets. My Cubs money line bet was voided. That was from a rain delay, not coronavirus related. But then my other 2 bets from Thursday night, the Pelicans minus 2.5 on opening night of the NBA, and Cleveland versus Minnesota over 8.5. Neither of those hit. The Pelicans lost by 2 on a strong push in the fourth quarter by the Utah Jazz, with Rudy Gobert making both of his free throws to win the game at the end. And then Cleveland, Minnesota, we thought that was going to be a high-scoring game, and it was, I believe, 2-0, 3-0, something like that. It was very low scoring. It was rather underwhelming in terms of that. It was, 2-0, Cleveland won in Minnesota. So went 0-2, and I guess you can say 1 if a push or a void counts in a sense. But, Brett, you had a little bit more luck than I did.
Yeah, thank God the Yankees came back onto the field because I was looking at a void also. But the Yankees and Orioles did end up coming out after that rain delay, and my Yankees over cashed. My 2 other bets, Lakers Clippers over, didn't really work out so well. Matt Wolf loses his group by a stroke, so that one kind of stunk. But beggars can't be choosers. We got 1 win, so we'll move on to the next week.
Yep, it was a little test of the waters with the NBA and everything. So now we're getting back into it. We're gonna have more games going on Monday. But before we get into that, we're gonna do Beginners Boulevard, and we're talking about against the spread, Brett. It refers to taking or laying points as opposed to betting straight up in a money line fashion.
Yeah, and I think when you're gambling, it's important to evaluate teams' records against the spread because oftentimes they're different than what their actual record is for the season. So it's extra information for the gamblers out there, and always good to keep that information in your back pocket.
Oftentimes, against the spread will be abbreviated ATS, though, as well. So if you're on, let's say, ESPN's website and you see the pick center in the game preview log in that left corner, it'll say ATS. It won't just spell out against the spread. So that's what that means, and it will show you a team could be very good money line. They win their games, but they don't cover the spread. Or it could be a team that is terrible, but they just manage to cover that spread every once in a while.
Yeah, it tells you a lot of extra information about the team. It tells you how they perform against Vegas's expectations, or New Jersey's, or Oregon's.
Let's jump into the MLB, though, Brett, because before we talk about the games that are coming up on Monday, we got to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals coronavirus worries, what Rob Manfred said, basically scolding the players. I think the MLB's doomed. I think it's just a countdown until the season gets canceled. I don't think it's going to finish. And Manfred seems to be blaming the players for not following protocols and regulations instead of taking responsibility for his plan that's full of holes.
Yeah, he came out with a very kind of questionable statement last week. I don't know. I think baseball is going to continue. Just looking at like what the Marlins are doing, where they're trading for almost every player that they can trade for, and signing anyone that'll come in off the streets. Like, you're just scrapping to get 20 guys who can go out there and compete. So that has me thinking baseball will continue. Although, that's not really the circumstances. Excuse me. That's not really the circumstances that we want baseball to continue under. We'd like it to be safe and moving forward more similarly to how the NBA is moving forward.
I think this is the main detriment to the MLB and the baseball players not wanting to do a bubble. We've seen success of the NBA and the NHL so far. I mean, they're only a few days in, whereas MLB's over a weekend now. But the travel with the MLB, I think, is a much bigger risk factor for this. And I think they will play for another week or two, maybe, but we saw the St. Louis Cardinals. It's the same problem, just a different organization. And if it just starts happening in different organizations and across the country, then we're going to have these postpone and schedule shifts. And how much shuffling around can you do until it's just not worth it? And it's not what anyone really signed up for. I mean, the quality of the product is going to start dramatically changing in this fashion.
Yeah, I mean, when you start putting out AAA ball teams, to your point, it's a way different ball game. And we've seen some surprises so far. I mean, the Baltimore Orioles are winning a lot. The Seattle Mariners are winning a lot. Is Kyle Lewis an MVP candidate? Like, I just that dude is on a tear right now. Now he strikes out a lot, but he's scoring a lot of runs for the Mariners out there, and I don't think anyone or their mother had that for this season.
And then on the other side, there are well known players like Jonas Cespedes and Lorenzo Cain who are opting out of the season now. I mean, we saw Nick Markakis last episode decide to opt back in with the Braves. Now we're having notable players opt back out of their teams preemptively before they get sick. So if players start doing that and it makes teams that haven't even had a coronavirus problem start shuffling around again, it's just going to add to this issue of the quality of the product that I was talking about, where I'm not sure what the level of interest will be as more names get sidelined or taken out and it becomes a AAA or minor league baseball product almost. But Brett, let's get into some games right now. There was one thing about the games that you have seen recently that you pointed out to me.
Yeah, just really quick, Yoenis Cespedes story, super odd on Sunday. Mets didn't know where he was. He wasn't answering his phone. Brody Van Wagenen makes a statement, then all of a sudden he makes another statement. That was crazy.
Was he
But
riding a horse
he just like packed up his bags and left and like didn't tell anyone. And
to go ride a horse?
to to go ride a horse or to chase a wild boar. Who knows? Um, but yes, the one positive thing coming out of baseball is these walk-off celebrations. I am absolutely in love with them. We saw the Orioles do it. We saw the Cubs do it. Everyone just jumping around, kind of not high-fiving one another. It's like a almost like a dance party on the field. I don't know. It's hilarious. I highly recommend everyone go see that. And I look forward to many more walk-offs this year and seeing those celebrations.
And who knows, maybe we'll see some of those in these Monday games that we're about to talk about right here, Brett. We have, I believe it's 7 games that are going to be going on Monday, and you and I each have a couple. I have a couple picks in the MLB. It doesn't look like you're on any of these at all. Are there any games you want to touch on with some leans before I get into my picks, though?
I do think the Phillies Yankee game is going to be interesting. This is going to be the Phillies' first game back from their week off with the Marlins COVID testing, I guess. Like the Phillies had a few positive tests, but not nearly the outbreak of the Marlins. So it'll be interesting to see if they're rusty at all or how they play compared to the Yankees. I am thinking about just taking an Aaron Judge home run prop because the dude's hit a home run in 5 straight games, Higgins.
He has. It is Jake Arrieta versus Garrett Cole, though, so I would be a little worried about that. But Arrieta has not been the same pitcher in Philadelphia as he has been for the Cubs, so Who knows? And it's in New York, which is a hitter's ballpark compared to the Citizens Bank Park, I would say. So Aaron Judge could continue that streak. He could make it six. I could see that happening. One of the games that I'm on, Brett, is a different Eastern Division game. It's the Mets against the Braves, and it is Jake DeGrom pitching. It is going to be a bit of a pitcher's duel. This is why I'm staying away from the over/under. That's only at 7.5. It's really low, but with Jake DeGrom on the mound, it could easily be a 2-1 game. So that's what's keeping me away from taking that over. But I just like the Braves here. They're 7-3. They're 5-0 at home. The Mets, they've struggled away. They're 2-3 on the road so far. I think the Braves are just they're hitting their stride, especially at their home ballpark in Atlanta, and I could see them carrying it on again. I mean, they got Mike Soroka pitching, so he's a 1.59 ERA right now against DeGrom, who's 1.64. Neither of them have a win or a loss to their record, but they've both come out with some quality outings.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets stink, so you're making a great play here.
Plus,
We
they're shuffling without Jonas Cespedes in their lineup again, so
the Mets, man. It is heartbreak city for the Mets. So yeah, good pick. I like that one. I would not bet on the Mets right now.
we will put up these other lines of the games that we're not going to be on in the graphic right next to me. Cleveland, Cincinnati. That money line favors the Reds a little bit. The Phillies, Yankees, like we talked about, the Yankees are heavily favored in that one. They are even minus money on the run line. You give up minus 1.5 runs, you still get minus 170. I was looking at that, but I was just like, I don't like that value for having to win by multiple runs, so I'm going to stay away from that. Uh, the Royals, Cubs. Brett, I didn't see a run line or an over under at the time of us recording this, but the Cubs, they are the favorite right now. Giants, Rockies. This game's in Colorado, and the big thing that stood out for me with this one is the over under at 13. I mean, I understand it's up in Mile High City, baby, but 13 is a large over under for those two teams.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to look at it and say neither team's throwing out an ace, so maybe they get knocked around a little bit. But 13 is high. Typically, you'll see a run line of about 11 and a half, 12 there. So they're adding an extra run onto that one.
Yeah, it's Johnny Cueto versus Chichi Gonzalez. And Cueto used to be an ace. I mean, he was the opening day starter for the Giants, but his ERA is a 5.87 because he did not have a good outing and he's struggled so far. So we'll see how that one goes. But 13, that's just too high for me. The other game I do find myself on is an over under though, Brett. It's the Dodgers at the Padres. And that over under is only at 7.5. And even though it's in San Diego, which is a pitcher's ballpark, it's very deep outfield. I am confident in the Dodgers. I mean, that lineup is just deadly. So even though it's Walker Buehler versus Chris Paddock, two quality pitchers, I'm confident that the over 7.5 is gonna hit. So I'm taking it at minus 120.
Yeah, I mean, those lineups are two good lineups. Hopefully they get to the bullpens quick for you because if those pitchers are on, it could be a good day for the under there. But if they get to the bullpens early, those lineups can certainly put the ball in play and score some runs.
Walker Bueller did only start one game so far, and he didn't have that great of an outing. He went 3 2/3, allowed 2 runs on 3 hits, including a home run, struck out three and only walked one. So his ERA is sitting just under 5 right now. That's a little more comforting in terms of what Walker Bueller is capable of. But Chris Paddock, he has had a very strong start to his season. So I think it'll be interesting. 7.5, it's just too low for that powerful Dodgers lineup for me, so that's where I'm going with that. But the last game that we're not going to be on, but I'll show you these lines up on the graphic right next to me, is the Oakland A's versus the Mariners. And the Athletics, even though they're on the road, they are the slight favorite here, and that over-under set at 9.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I've bet against the Mariners twice this season and they've burned me both times. So what do? I learned my lesson and stay far, far away. Kyle Lewis for MVP.
Kyle Lewis for MVP. There's also two games that are happening on Monday that At the time of our recording, we did not have lines for to talk about. That's the White Sox and the Brewers, and the Pirates and the Twins. So those lines will obviously be out by Monday morning, but we can't give our opinions on those really right now because we don't really have any lines to be going off of.
I do want to say one thing about the Twins, Higgins, and this is kind of what frustrates me about this whole baseball thing is the Twins were the last team to play the Cardinals before the Cardinals started testing positive, and they're still playing. But the
Yeah.
Phillies had to sit for a week. Like the inconsistencies in this are insane.
Yes. So I think part of that is the turnaround time of coronavirus tests. The Phillies, they were actively in a series with the Marlins, whereas that had already finished between the Cardinals and the Twins. But we have seen some concerns from players where they're not getting their results a day or two later. So the Cardinals, they're getting theirs fast tracked right now. They're supposed to get today's test results tomorrow, but the turnaround is what makes it so hard to confidently be able to allow these teams to play if they've previously had contact with a team that tests positive. I agree that is an interesting decision to allow the Twins to continue playing this series.
Yeah, just weird. Like the Phillies got to be looking at the Twins like what did we do that was so different? But anyway, I digress. Let's get on to Moneyline Magic in the NBA, Higgins.
Yes, it's been an exciting start to the NBA, and Brett, one of my favorite stats that I saw from Thursday's games, or no, it was Friday's games, where there were 5 games, and it set a league record for most average points scored by a team with at least 5 games. It was like nearly 125 points scored on Friday, and I took that as basically these guys were loose, they were ready, they were excited to get back out on the basketball court and play some games. Maybe not as excited to go play some defense, but these guys, they felt like their shots were going, and it was exciting to watch. It was some very, very exciting basketball.
Yeah, to your point, the Thursday night games both went under, and the Friday games, everything went over. So,
Way over.
yeah,
Way
way
over.
over for sure. But anyway, we had some money line magic on Sunday in the Grizzlies Spurs game, and I hope all of our listeners caught that one. But in case they didn't, we'll start you off with 2:15 remaining in the fourth quarter. The Grizzlies are down 6. Ja Morant grabs the rebound, takes it coast to coast to cut the lead to 4. The score would remain 102 to 98 and for about another minute here. And then all of a sudden, Jaren Jackson hits a big corner 3 to cut the Spurs lead to 1. DeRozan on the next possession uh was able to make it a 3-point game, after a great drive and finish to the basket. He literally took it like 1 on 5 pretty much and was able to finish at the rim. Uh
But he wasn't done there, Brett. He was not done there yet because he would go on to close out the game, hitting a tough mid range step back with just 22 seconds left, putting the Spurs up 5. Now, John Morant would score within 5 seconds, making it a one possession game again. And after a timeout, DeRozan goes to the free throw line, misses both. And Ja gets the rebound, one possession game, Grizzlies ball. And the next play is where this becomes moneyline magic, Brett, right?
yes, this is where, because right now the Spurs haven't given up the lead. So why would this be moneyline magic? Well, the Grizzlies ran an ATO play where actually John Morant sets the screen for Jaren Jackson to go back into the corner. And oh my God, did he hit a tough shot? I mean, literally, Rudy Gay stood there for another 2 seconds just in disbelief that he hit this corner 3. Um, but don't you worry, Spurs backers, because your guy DeMar DeRozan's going to come through for you at the end.
He goes back to the free throw line after he gets Dylan Brooks to leave his feet and draws the shooting foul. He missed his previous 2 free throws, like I said, but he goes on to make both of these times, icing the game. Spurs up to 1 second left, and they tried going back to Jaren Jackson with the wide open 3 shot, but it was a little too deep, wasn't very close, and the Spurs survived. That's a money line magic, Brett.
Yeah, DeMar's pump fake to get Dylan Brooks up in the air, like you mentioned, Higgins. Very heady veteran play on the young defensive player. And, you feel bad for Dylan Brooks in that situation because he's trying to contest the shot. DeMar, one of the best pump fakes in the league, gets him up in the air. That's how they win. That's a veteran play. Spurs 2-0 in Orlando.
And we got plenty of NBA action going on Monday, Brett. We have 8 games. We have 8 games, and DeMar DeRozan's going to be right back on the court. The Spurs are playing the 76ers. Sixers are favored by 7 in that one. Grizzlies are also going to be back on the court. They're facing off against the Pelicans. Potential Rookie of the Year matchup between Ja Morant and Zion. Now, the Pelicans are favored -3.5 here, Brett. I'm not sure if that is right. I'm staying away from this game, but I was leaning Memphis while we were putting together this rundown.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Higgins. I'd lean Memphis on this one too. The back to back for the Pelican or for the Grizzlies, excuse me, kind of scares me off a little bit, but New Orleans has shown me nothing that thinks they'd be favored over Memphis in this game.
Good thing about the bubble, though, is even if you're playing a back-to-back, there's no travel.
No
Maybe
travel.
maybe a golf cart ride.
Maybe you're in a different arena this time. I don't know. But yeah, that is honestly something that we do have to keep our eyes on. It's much easier to play these back to backs when you just have to go to your hotel room and then back to the arena tomorrow.
Absolutely. There's also a Lakers Jazz game. Now, the Lakers are favored by 6 in this game, and Brett, based on how Utah played in that opening game against the Pelicans, I'm not sure if the Lakers -6 is going to hit. I would lean Jazz +6, but I'm not going to touch that game as of right now. Maybe I'll find myself on that tomorrow. Um, Raptors at Heat. Again, I was leaning Toronto in this one -2.5. I had a lot of leans in the NBA, but I didn't pull the trigger on most of them. I wanted to find one confident pick in the NBA, and that was found in the Nuggets Thunder game. Denver plus 164 on the money line. I love this pick. I love how the Denver Nuggets have looked since returning to the bubble. They brought Ball into the mix. They did that really big lineup that we talked about a couple episodes ago where their smallest man on the court was 6'7". I mean, it's a different type of basketball than we have been seeing, and I think it can favor them here as against the Thunder.
Yeah, I didn't really have a good feel for this game. The Thunder uh, probably surprised a lot of people early on in the year. Chris Paul's been playing great for them. Obviously they have Steven Adams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is seems like a budding superstar. Um, but yeah, Denver's a great team. It'll be interesting to see if Jamal Murray and Gary Harris and all those guys are back for Denver. Um, I didn't really have a good feel, but I'm rooting for my co-host here.
Now, going back to our beginners boulevard though, Brett, this is a perfect example of two teams and two sides of the coin of against the spread. Denver, their overall record is 43-23, but against the spread, they're 29-32-4. Oklahoma City Thunder, they're 41-24, but they're 40-24-1 against the spread. So the Thunder, it looks like when they're expected to win, they have been most of the time, whereas the Nuggets, they can win the game but not necessarily cover the spread. That doesn't necessarily help my point where Denver is the underdog in this game, but the bubble's different. I don't know how much the against the spread data from the regular season's going to be effective in this bubble scenario. I'll be kind of interested to see that.
Yeah, and one last game that we got to talk about: Pacers at Wizards tomorrow night. Indiana's -6.5 on the money line. Indiana's -275. Washington's +225. TJ Warren obviously exploded onto the scene with a 50-point game for the Pacers. The
That was
Wizards,
huge.
yeah, it was a big
Huge.
game. He played great. And the Wizards lost to Brooklyn today, or Sunday, excuse me. So the Wizards on a back to back versus a guy that just scored 50 points in his last game. Give me the Pacers -6.5.
All right, Pacers -6.5. I like that. I like that. Let's take a look at that against the spread as well, though, Brett. The Pacers, they're 40-26 in their overall record, 34-28-3 against the spread. Now the Wizards, they're 24-42, 32-30-2 against the spread. So two teams that are kind of just above 50% against the spread. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects that game as well.
Yeah, I just think it's a kind of a hot hand versus the cold hand type of thing. The Wizards don't have their best player down in Orlando. Bradley Beal opted out before the return. Davis Bertans also opted out, another key cog for the Wizards. And Indiana's looked really good in their first game, so I'm not going to bet against them right now.
But Brett, let's jump into the NHL right here now because there is some action going on Sunday night. I did give out a Sunday night parlay that was NBA and NHL. It was the Bucks spread, the Mavs spread, and Toronto money line. Now Toronto, you just told me, is currently losing to the Columbus Blue Jackets 1-0, right?
Yeah, that's the score I'm seeing right now with about 5 minutes remaining in the third period.
That sounds about how that game has been going the entire time. It's been very hard fought. There hasn't been a lot of action at the net. It's been a lot of kind of full court, or sorry, there hasn't been a lot of disadvantages or mismatches in terms of fast breaks. It's been a lot of offensive zones setting up plays and trying to get that going. We'll see. Maybe Toronto can force this one to go to overtime, but you just said they're running out of time. It's 5 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. I'm holding out hope for you. I know you mentioned you're on the Bucks with 4 minutes remaining in the third quarter. They're down three to Houston. So I got a question for you, Higgins. Just as a gambler, would you rather be wrong on one pick in a parlay, or would you rather get like off? If you're in, obviously yours is only three teams. Would you rather get all three teams wrong or just one?
So I would, if I'm gonna be wrong in a parlay, I'd rather multiple of them be wrong.
I
So
agree.
at least two.
I
It,
totally agree. Like,
if you have a 3 leg parlay and one of them loses, it hurts. It hurts. If you have a 7 leg parlay and you go 6-1, you're kicking yourself.
yes, yeah. No, it's never. It always hurts more when you only get one wrong. It always hurts more.
But if I go say 1-2 in a 3 leg parlay, or 5-2, or 4-3 in a 7 leg parlay, I'm not mad anymore because I wasn't nearly as close to being right in a sense as just getting one wrong.
Yeah, and you're always second guessing yourself. Like, why the f did I put that one extra team in there? Like,
But let's take a look at this at these games right now, Brett, because we got some interesting ones going on
a
Monday.
little
And
noon hockey on a Monday.
yes, a little noon hockey on a Monday, and it's part of my parlay. The Rangers at the Hurricanes. Now, the Hurricanes won the first game. They're up 1-0, and I like the Rangers money line here, and I'm going to pair it with the Calgary money line. Now, I tried to take Calgary's money line in on Saturday. Did not work out for me, partly because I also took them with the over under at 5.5, and that did not win. But I'm taking Calgary money line and Rangers money line. Calgary looked really good, and I was reading about them. They're really tired of losing. They're still mad about this playoff series that they lost last year, and they really want to get out of this qualifying round with a bang, if you, so to speak.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm not buying any of that hype. I'm taking Winnipeg on the money line. I hope your parlay only loses one game because you're betting on my Rangers. So I would like my Rangers to tie up the series there. That game on Saturday was very exciting. It was great to have hockey back. I enjoyed it a lot. And it also reminded me how sad I am when I watch the Rangers play and lose. But I'm riding Winnipeg in this Calgary game. I think Winnipeg's a really talented team. They have a Vesna finalist between the pipes. Hopefully, he gets hot, and Winnipeg is able to carry the Winnipeg Jets through game two.
Some other games that are going on in the NHL, we're going to get to see some more of the round robin action of those top four seeds. The Capitals at the Lightning. Now, Brett, these are two of the top teams in the East Coast, and I was looking at this game. I don't know if I can pull the trigger, but the over under set at 6. This could be a very high scoring game potentially with how fast those teams are. Washington's the slight underdog at plus 115. My gut's doing jumping jacks trying to figure out where I would like to be on that game, but I just can't pull the trigger either way.
Yeah, to your point, I do think it's going to be high scoring when the Lightning and the Capitals get together. Something to keep our eye on throughout this whole bubble thing in the East is and in the West is just to see how the ice holds up throughout the day. Is the ice going to be sloppy by game two, by game three? Is there a big difference? Like, do we see goals decreasing as the games get later in the day? Just something that we should all keep mental notes on as gamblers and store in our I don't know what to call it, our bank of knowledge, like whatever you want to, just good information to have, I would say.
Well, to the point that you're making there, Brett, this is the second of two games in Toronto today. The first game, Flyers Bruins, that was a 4-1 game, a little bit more fast action, a little bit higher paced. Blue Jackets Maple Leafs right now, they're just under 2 minutes right now, and it's still 1-0. So, kind of answers your question a little bit. Like I was saying, there weren't a lot of fast break opportunities when I was watching this Toronto game before we started recording. So, it seems like the ice is slowing them down maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's just something I'm gonna have to keep my eye on as I continue to handicap these hockey games. And, if I see a trend where the third game is the lowest scoring game every day, well, then I know it's probably gonna be an under.
I have a hard time picking unders, but you are right. Let's talk about the other West Coast Robin game, Brett. Stars at Golden Knights, and this game has me leaning on the over because of the value. It's over 5.5, and it's at plus 110.
Yeah, again, obviously two good teams. This is part of the round robin, not the unofficial first round of the playoffs. So, um, it'll be interesting to see how these guys come out. If they're coming out to win, to stay, like, sometimes you can tell a team's fully going all out. Sometimes a team's holding a little back. They just want to get through the game healthy. So these are all things to watch. I'm not ready to bet on any of the round robin games yet, but I will definitely have my eye on them, seeing how these teams look, how aggressive they are, how often they're changing their lines, things like that.
And then the second game in Toronto is going to be the Montreal Canadiens at the Pittsburgh Penguins. Everyone was surprised with Montreal getting a win in the opening game of that series. But Pittsburgh's still favored here. They're fully expecting that the Penguins are going to tie this series back up. I don't necessarily disagree, even though I'm not making a pick here. But Pittsburgh minus 170. And again, another over that I think is some decent value of 5.5 plus 105.
Yeah, I think this is a series that if Carey Price is hot, it's gonna be tough for Pittsburgh. A hot goalie can carry you in the NHL playoffs. I know you know that, Higgins.
Absolutely, and that was part of why it was so controversial that the Canadians and the Chicago Blackhawks made it to this 24 expanded playoff format because they were 23 and 24, and Corey Crawford and Carey Price are both have had great history as goalies for those teams, and they can flip that switch and can potentially cause some issues for their opposing teams.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Blackhawks. Blackhawks Oilers is the last game on Monday. And Chicago is plus 115 on the money line. Edmonton minus 135. Edmonton minus 1.5 goals on the puck line at plus 185. Chicago at plus 1.5 goals on the puck line is minus 215. This game had a ton of goals in game one. I think the final score was something like 7-4 in favor of the Blackhawks. So I think Edmonton is going to show some pride. Again, they're playing in their home arena. Not that that means much. There's no fans, but you'd think Edmonton's going to show some pride and come out and be a little embarrassed that they let up 7 goals in the opening game. I'm going to back the Oilers on the money line minus 135. I just think it's a pride thing. I just think you don't come out after a 4-month hiatus and let up 7 goals and then come back out the next game and lose again.
I agree that there is definitely a pride factor into that. And Brett, speaking of pride, Toronto, they did pull their goalie to try to come back, and Columbus just scored a second time. So it's 2-0 with like 15 seconds left in the game. Safe to say my parlay is a no-go for that. And honestly, Brett, with how my bets have been going since sports have started back up, I'm going to make the disclaimer right now. Listeners should probably be fading me.
Fade Higgins. Can we get that hashtag going?
We might get it on a t-shirt. Who knows?
Ooh, that would be a bestseller for us.
I think so. Well, that's our NHL segment. Let's jump into the NFL real quick, Brett. We're going to talk about a few more moves that have been going on with some teams. Starting off with your Jets.
Yeah, my Jets, we cut our starting right guard. It was a bit of a surprising move, but it creates 7.5 million in cap space. I think the biggest impact here is that this was Sam Darnold's starting right guard for his first 2 years in the league. So, line adjustments are always something to keep an eye on, especially with young quarterbacks.
We talked about that last week with the Giants and Nate Solder by chance. We have seen the New England Patriots have multiple players opt out, mainly on their defense. But now we have also seen an eighth New England Patriot, Matt Lacrosse, opt out of the season. And Devin McCourty, one of the twin cornerbacks in that secondary there, he called the deadline bullshit.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting comments. He said he thinks the NFL is doing it because he's tired of seeing players opt out. Well, I got news for you. Players are still opting out, NFL.
We
But
saw it in the MLB. It doesn't matter. The season started. They're still opting out.
yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, if you become uncomfortable with the situation, you're going to opt out. Someone that won't need to opt out, AB, was suspended for his first 8 games. I just have a question, Higgins. Somehow, some way, Antonio Brown ends up on our show every episode. How?
Yeah, the man makes a lot of news, and I don't know if it necessarily should be news. At some point, we got to start just ignoring his antics, I think. But this didn't come from him. This is news from the NFL saying if he did come back, it would be an 8 game suspension for his conduct that he has had recently. And I think that drastically affects whether or not the Baltimore Ravens would sign him.
Over under. We mentioned AB point 0.5 times on the Thursday podcast.
Under.
Ooh, I'm saying over the way this has been trending.
Okay. Well, I think that you might be right because, like I said, fade Higgins. I haven't been very hot recently.
I love that. Last bit of news from football, really college football. The Pac-12, we saw a Players Tribune article where we saw a bunch of players uniting together saying that they're not going to play under these current conditions. I just want to get your thoughts. What do you think of the state of Pac-12 football right now?
I don't think the Pac-12's gonna play, and that's mainly because of the states, not because of what the players are saying. Gavin Newsom has been rather vocal as the California mayor. Oregon and Washington, they typically stand in solidarity with California and will do similar mandates as California, partly because of I-5 and the amount of interstate travel that there is going on with commerce. But the players standing up and unifying for this, I think, is a very strong move. We saw that there is some interesting news out of Wazoo, though, Brett.
Yeah, it does not seem like they're handling this the best way. What have we seen that some players are being kicked off the team for signing this Again, this Players Tribune article?
Yeah, they kicked one player off of the team, and it is not looking good, Brett. I mean, there is a quote that was retweeted by Theo Lawson, who is a Washington State football and hoops writer for the Spokesman Review, and it's a quote saying, if you're a part of that movement, part of all the unity movement and what's going on, that's going to force me to kind of release you of your duties from this football team for this year. Now, you're going to stay on the scholarship for this year, but I don't know what the future plans for next year are. Then he told him Monday to clean out his locker. That is Coach Nick Rolovich talking about Cassidy Woods, and that's a quote from his father, John Woods.
Yeah, I mean that is certainly concerning in my book. Now I'm over here on the East Coast. The Pac-12 is much more your neck of the woods, but I have to imagine you're pretty concerned when you hear something like that as well.
Yeah, I was hoping to go up and see a Ducks game potentially this year. Obviously, with the coronavirus, that doesn't seem plausible anymore. I don't even know if there's going to be a season anymore. Personally, I don't even know if there should be a season for the college football players. I mean, these are students, they are amateur athletes, and this is serious liability that you are asking these players to take on. I don't know if it is fair when so many of these universities are going to have their students take online courses that you can expect the athletic programs to be on campus and producing revenue like they do without giving them some form of compensation.
Yeah, lots to figure out there. But before we go, we got our Levy lock, our Higgins POP. I'll start it off. My Levy lock, I mentioned it earlier. Pacers, -6.5 against the Wizards. I like the Pacers. They're playing well. They had a big win in their last game. The Wizards are going to be on a back to back. They just lost to the Brooklyn Nets. Their best player's not in the bubble. Uh, Davis Bertans, also a key important player for the Wizards, not in the bubble. Pacers, -6.5.
And mine is the Dodgers Padres over 7.5. That's the pick of the pod for Jake. And like I said at the top, the Dodgers have just such a strong lineup that I think 7.5 is very low. We've seen they can score 8, 9 runs on their own. I mean, I'm looking at their season right now, and they have had arguably half their games have been over 7.5. And in those games, three of those four, or 3 of those 5, they scored over 7.5 runs themselves. So this is a team with a lot of firepower. It's Walker Buehler versus Chris Paddock. That does worry me a little bit in terms of the quality of pitching that we might see. Padres is a pitcher's ballpark compared to a hitter's ballpark. I mentioned that at the top of the podcast as well. However, I'm not that worried because the Dodgers and Padres, they both have some very strong lineups. The Padres' young lineup is looking very good this year. And so over 7.5, I'm going to take that as my pick of the pod. But there you have it. Pacers -6.5. That's the Levy lock. See the other picks on his screen as well. Dodgers, Padres over 7.5 with my picks. I told you, you might want to fade me. I have not been picking very well. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. But I'm still giving out picks. Like them or hate them, fade them, follow them. Follow us on social media. Let us know what you are on at MBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page. Brett, you have any more recommendations for your picks?
No, like you said, I had to take a step back from baseball. I was losing by the hook on almost every bet I was placing, and I'm like, I need to reevaluate something here. Let me take a step back. Let me watch for a few days without losing some money and see what's going on.
Well, there you have it. Brett took a step back from baseball. I leaned back into it, I guess you could say. This has been episode 65 of The Next Best Bet. Sports are back, baby. We got the NHL, NBA, and MLB. Plenty of action for you to find something to bet on. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you on Thursday.